This is the BBC. For details of our complete range of programmes, go to bbcworldservice.com/podcasts.
Hello, I'm Jackie Leonard, welcoming you to this special edition of the Global News Podcast. And by special, I mean positive, upbeat, even happy. We have rummaged through the capacious archives and emerged triumphant with a collection of some of the most positive stories we've brought you over the past 12 months. The year has unquestionably seen some doom and indeed gloom, but there have also been moments of joy, wonder and awe. So today, the 25th of December 2017, sit back, relax and enjoy our happy Global News podcast. So, in this edition, we will bring you a mysterious benefactor, a miraculous escape.
If I was going to leave, I had to save a lot of energy, so don't panic, don't get upset. I even laughed a few times thinking, God, this is how I'm going to die in a freaking pond.
No, it isn't. A moment of darkness that delighted quite a lot of people.
I'm so excited right now. I mean, there's barely any of the sun left, and we're just so close. You can tell, you can feel that something's going on out here. It's very quiet, and we're just, anticipation is building. It's great.
We also have romance, freedom, terrible puns, and later, the wonder that is the deep ocean. So we begin this review of 2017 in China with a gentle reminder not to judge a book by its cover, or indeed a man by his appearance. Put up a statue to honour a loyal patron, an elderly man whose true identity came to light only after he was killed in a car accident. Our Asia-Pacific editor Celia Hatton has more.
Most who saw Wei Shihao reading in Hangzhou's library week after week assumed he was homeless. He carried bags of salvaged plastic bottles slung over his shoulder on a bamboo pole. He was even interviewed by a Chinese newspaper for a story exploring why vagrants used the library. He said then, "Books are my spiritual food. If I'm in pain or I'm lonely, I only need to read to forget my sadness for a while." Only after the 77-year-old died did his real story emerge. He was once a high school teacher, respected for lecturing on everything from maths and chemistry to English. In later years, Wei Shihao collected things to be recycled in order to fund scholarships for poor students. A secret in his tiny, sparse flat, his 3 daughters found a stack of thank you letters from grateful recipients across China. The man who loved books, it seems, wanted others to discover them too.
Celia Hatton on the legacy of Wei Shihao. Next to the story of how yoga saved a life. When Australian farmer Daniel Miller was trapped in a pond, he held a yoga pose to keep his nose clear of the water for a full 4 hours. He'd been trying to clear out a muddy dam when his digger kicked and trapped him. And just to paint you a picture, when his neighbour eventually found him and emergency services arrived at the scene, all that was visible was the top of his head, his eyes, and the very tip of his nose. It took nearly another hour for him to be pulled out. Once Daniel had got cleaned up, he told us about his unbelievable death-defying experience.
At first, I could actually get my chin out of the water. I could push myself up to get my chin out. And after about 10, 15 minutes, I realised I was stuck and there was no one that was going to come for... I estimated it would be about 6 hours before someone started looking for me when I didn't pick my kids up from school. So I thought, I've got to get myself out, put my hands between my legs and start to try and dig myself out. But as I did that, then I sunk further down. And that's when I got to that stage where it was just nose and mouth above the water. I thought it'd just be so tragic for my kids to come home and see their dad dead in a dam, and just my kids and my wife. Really, I couldn't do that to them. So I thought, I'm not just going to give up and this is too hard. So I ran my hands into the mud and pushed myself up into that position I was in, that kind of push-up position. And I just count to 60, and obviously it gets tiring. So then I'd move my arms and just count to 60 and just do that over and over and over and just try and keep it into really little pieces. And just knew I had to, if I was going to leave, I had to save a lot of energy. So don't panic, don't get upset. I even laughed a few times thinking, God, this is how I'm going to die in a freaking pond. You go through stages of laughing and swearing, obviously, and different things through, that kind of time frame. thinking, I wonder what the record for holding a yoga position is. And just so you go through funny stages like that.
That was Daniel Miller. Now, to a true sportsman who had more than a few obstacles to overcome in 2017, in an eventful few days, Venezuelan skier Adriano Solano represented his country for the first time at the World Skiing Championships in Finland, found himself at the centre of a diplomatic incident and caused a storm on social media after being dubbed the worst skier in the world. The BBC's Alex Ritson reports.
From the moment Adriano Solano comes out of the starting gate into the glare of the TV lights and flashes of press photographers, the clues are there, if you know what you're looking for, that something is wrong. Little things like his faltering steps and the way he almost tumbles over backwards as he pushes off. And, if you'll pardon the pun, it's all downhill from there. He falls over in various ways, struggles with changes in direction and breaks one of his poles. And yet he did, through sheer persistence, make it to the end of the 10-kilometre course. And despite not winning an official finisher's place, his delight was a pleasure to watch.
I'm grateful to skiing and to the public, of course, who helped me come here to Finland, and that I fulfilled my dream to ski in the snow in such a great competition.
Unkind broadcasters, not from this network, I hasten to add, dubbed him the world's worst skier. His story, however, went viral on social media when he revealed that despite the fact he was representing his country, he had never skied on snow before in his life. His entire training was on skis with wheels in his home country of Venezuela, where the few real ski slopes that exist are being destroyed by global warming. Adriano Solano did try to arrive a month ago in France for a few weeks' training in Europe, but was detained by border guards, who he says accused him of being a would-be illegal immigrant because of the country's poor economic situation. His trainer says the French officials laughed at him, mocked him, and then deported him. Venezuela's Foreign Minister, Delcy Rodriguez, has tweeted that his country will be making an official sportsmanlike. He told followers on Instagram that, maybe I have fallen many times, but what really counts is that I will always continue to rise. And don't forget, in the 1988 Winter Olympics, Jamaica made it through to the bobsleigh finals.
That report on the indomitable Adriano Solano by the equally indomitable Alex Ritson. Now, how do you rediscover happiness once you've had it snatched away? And family, but he was miserable. So Mo, an engineer, sought a mathematical solution, and he formulated an equation for happiness. He was forced to put it to the ultimate test in 2014 when his 21-year-old son, Ali, died unexpectedly during what should have been a routine operation.
Happiness is equal to or greater than the difference between the way you see the events of your life and your expectation of how life should behave. You buy a new mobile phone and coming new to the world, everything's working perfectly well. You're always happy. Then you start to install weird apps on top of it, right? You start to install an app that says, I need to control everything. You need to install another app that says, I need to worry and plan for everything. Those apps make you function properly in life, but they mess up your operating system completely. I love Ali, and so I spent my life planning for Ali's future. Then life missed my expectations. Life took him away. Life missed my expectations. That's it. I can either do something about it, or sometimes, unfortunately, I have to accept and commit to make tomorrow slightly better than today. You can tell yourself, well, I'm going to expect my partner to slap me on the face twice every day. That's my expectation from now on. So on the days where he or she slaps me once, that's a great day. I'm happy. Is that the way we want to go through life? No, we want to go through life with realistic, even stretching expectations, right? Expectations that make us successful, positive contributors to life. It's the way we handle those expectations when they're missed that makes all the difference for our state of happiness.
That was Mo Gaudat, an executive at Google who shared his secret for happiness in 2017. For many people, a golden tan suggests outdoorsy health, right? But the pursuit of the bronzed look has always raised the risk of skin cancer. Well, now the good news. Researchers from Harvard University have developed a drug that makes the skin darken without exposing it to the harmful UV radiation emitted by the sun. Our health and science reporter James Gallagher told Alex Ritson how it works.
So if we think about how our skin tans naturally. So we're exposed to sunlight, and that causes damage in the skin. The UV radiation damages the skin. The skin detects that, and it decides to start manufacturing a dark pigment called melanin, and that in the future protects you against further sun damage. Now, the way this drug works is when it's rubbed into the skin, then it triggers that same pathway. It starts the manufacture of melanin, so you get a natural tan, but the step you're skipping is the UV damage in the first place. It would be a completely novel approach to tanning and to protecting yourself from sun damage. What I should stress is at the moment they've only tested it and managed to make it work on samples of skin that they've grown in the laboratory. So what they don't have is something you can go into your local pharmacist or your local supermarket, buy off the shelf, and by the time you're at the checkout already have a tan. They don't have that product yet, but that's what they're aiming for.
And presumably when they do, they're going to make an absolute fortune.
Well, it will come as no surprise that the team at Massachusetts General Hospital, which is part of Harvard, is already planning on spinning out a separate company to try to work out how they get this to market. But it's worth remembering that 10 years ago they made the first discovery that has led to this. It's been a slow process to get to a drug that adequately penetrates the skin to kick off this reaction. We don't actually know when we'll actually be able to go off and buy one of them.
Why have they developed this? Is it purely for cosmetic reasons?
No, the motivation here really is about health. It's about preventing cancer. It's from a group of doctors who have looked in the United States, seen skin cancer becoming more and more common. It's now the most common cancer. And yet there hasn't really been much progress in dealing with it.
Is it definitely safe?
This is what we don't know 100% for certain yet, and that's why it's not yet on the market and they want to do more tests. What they've said to me is, so far, there is no evidence at all of any problems. I mean, this is a drug that they've developed, so it only penetrates the very surface areas of the skin. It's not something that you're going to find it has problems with your kidneys, because it just doesn't get that far.
That was the sun-kissed and golden James Gallagher. It is always a moment of joyful, nerdy anticipation to see the latest regeneration of the Doctor in the cult television show Doctor Who. 2017, though, was truly special as, for the first time in over 5 decades, the role went to a woman, the British actress Jodie Whittaker. So, how are fans reacting? This was probably my favourite reaction, Jenny Trout's video that went viral, of course, of her young daughter watching the great reveal. Stay with us, this is the tension building here. The BBC's Julian Marshall spoke to Holly Christine Brown, a writer and US-based Doctor Who fan, while Tom Spilsbury is the editor of Doctor Who magazine.
I think it's long overdue. I think Doctor Who has a long history of being a progressive series and always sort of pushing the envelope. And the fact that we haven't had a woman doctor really has just sort of felt like we've been holding back. And in the last couple of series, we've been making strides and seeing the Master turn into Missy. And now we have Bill, who is a openly gay character. So I think that this is a direction that we've been moving and that we've been needing to move.
And following on from that, Tom, I mean, what chances are there that the first female Doctor will get a female companion to travel with her? Or do you think that would just be too much of a change for fans?
Yeah, it is interesting because I think, a lot of television, and this isn't just Doctor Who, often depends on having male and female leads. But actually, wouldn't it be really interesting to have a series which has 2 female leads? It would certainly change the dynamic. The heart of Doctor Who, of course, is fighting the monsters and having adventure. A lot of these other things about the relationships between the Doctor and companions is slightly sort of second fiddle to running down corridors and blowing up Daleks. So I think the latest series, we've had 2 companions, so I think that's worked quite well.
Tom Spilsbury, the editor of Doctor Who magazine, and we also heard from Holly Christine Brown, a writer and fan. 14 states in the US were plunged into darkness in August when a total solar eclipse took place. It was the chance of a lifetime for many sky gazers and scientists, and indeed my producer Hayley Thomas, who went home to South Carolina and was at the Chattooga Bell Farm in the Blue Ridge Mountains when the skies went dark.
We are almost to totality. There are clouds all over the sky, except for where the sun is. Absolutely perfect. We can see it clearly. It's gone quiet. The music stopped. Meredith is a local resident. How are you feeling? What have you been seeing?
I'm so excited right now. I mean, there's barely any of the sun left, and we're just so close. You can tell, you can feel that something's going on out here. It's very quiet, and we're just, anticipation is building. It's great.
I'm getting goosebumps. It's going very, very dark right now, and the temperature has dropped probably just 10 degrees. It is the most bizarre. It looks like it's about to storm rain, but there are no clouds. As you can hear, they're cheering. It's going completely dark. There's really nothing left, and it looks like we're about to have that diamond ring effect, and hopefully I can take off my glasses any minute. People are excited. It's gone. We're in totality. Oh my God, I am shaking. It is incredible. I have never seen something like this. It is just, we've got the glow from around, the really bright corona. It actually isn't as red as I thought it would be. Some people said to be prepared for bright red, and it's not really that red, but when I put my glasses back on, I can't see anything because we're in complete totality, and it is just beautiful. It's dark. It looks like the sun's setting. There's a few birds that have flown out, but the crickets have started to chirping. It looks like there's a black hole in the sky. It is just one of the most incredible things. So we've been told we might be able to see a few planets. 1 in 50,000 people actually experience this, and we're still in totality. I mean, it feels like the 2.5 minutes are just a slow-moving, beautiful clock. Okay, here we go. We're seeing the sun now. We're coming out of totality. Oh, wow. It just happened so fast. It's already sunny again. It was almost like a snap of your finger. And there we are back in day.
That was Hayley Thomas, my producer today, who is still grinning, by the way, and who was never going to let us omit that one from the Happy News pod. Still to come in this podcast.
The little diamonds either side are from my mother's jewellery collection to make sure that she's with us on this crazy journey together.
It's beautiful. And he designed it. It's incredible.
Don't roll your eyes. Engagements are good news. And we are doing good news because this is the Global News Review of the most happy, quirky, uplifting and fascinating stories of 2017. Because we deserve it. You know what else we deserve? High culture. Really high culture. That is the sound of Australian violinist Glenn Donnelly playing his instrument while skydiving at 15,000 feet. Did I mention he's naked? Mr. Donnelly, as well as being a talented musician, is also the founder of the nude movement. Let's take this back a bit. He abandoned his career in 2013 after he was diagnosed with body dysmorphic disorder. That's where a person can develop a deep hatred of their own body. In a world increasingly lived online, there is plenty of concern around the anxieties that many face about their body image, and it's not just among girls. To publicise the issue of men's body image, Glenn skydived while playing the violin while completely naked. He spoke to Paul Hawkins.
I think that there's a big stigma about men's body image. You know, we have a culture where, you know, men they're not allowed to be ashamed of themselves. They can't feel or show their shame. And if you do that, it's only going to make your shame worse.
Is society perhaps to blame for this, the sort of obsession with the body beautiful, perfection and celebrities?
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely doesn't help because we all know about the women's issues. It is more common among females. But a study came out in Australia last year that actually found that males are 4 times more likely to not talk about it whenever they do have body image issues. So the numbers might be smaller among males, but it still is quite a severe issue. And, you know, it's both straight and gays. It's across the whole spectrum. Yeah. Men just don't talk about it and they don't reach out. So that's why I decided to do this crazy skydive thing.
Well, on that point, were you completely naked?
I was completely naked, just my violin and my harness.
Right. How did it feel?
It felt very new, a lot of very new sensations I'd never felt before. And it was just amazing, a huge rush at 200 kilometres per hour. And, you know, we want to really do something for men's body image. You know, we want to set up workshops, like a men's body image workshop, where men will actually have to take their clothes off and face their fears, you know, head on. And, we really want to do some innovative things there because, you know, males, once they get talking, you know, they realise that almost all of us have some sort of an issue with our body.
Glenn Donnelly, helping men face their body issues with music, discussion and a parachute. And from human resilience to a scientific marvel that completed its mission this year, NASA's Cassini spacecraft. Now, for our science department, this was a bittersweet story because 20 years after Cassini set off, it was destroyed as it made its final plunge into Saturn's atmosphere. But be not downhearted, lovers of science, because Cassini was a major success. It completed 249 orbits of Saturn, it took more than 450,000 images, collected 635 gigabytes of data and discovered 6 new moons. Our science correspondent Rebecca Morell spoke to us from the Pasadena Mission Control in California.
So many scientists here who've spent so many years working on this mission, some of them even entire careers dedicated to the Cassini spacecraft, and seeing that signal vanish from the screen. You know, the team kept it together in Mission Control, but there were tears and hugs afterwards. Now, I'm joined by one of the scientists who was there in the room the minute the signal... What was it like seeing that signal just vanish away?
Oh, it was tough. It kind of reminds you of watching someone's EKG just flatlining, and that's our beautiful spacecraft, which we've been flying 20 years in space and 13 years out at Saturn. But we knew it was coming, and we bid her goodbye tonight.
I mean, one of your key jobs in the mission was keeping track of how much fuel there was on the Cassini spacecraft. And of course, this mission was extended and extended and extended, essentially spending 20 years in space. I mean, is this why it had to end this way?
It is, and you're exactly right. I'm the human gas gauge on the mission. There is no gas gauge. You're petrol, pardon me, it's the BBC. So there's a fill sensor in your car that tells how much liquid petrol's left. That doesn't work in zero gravity. It floats around, clings to the wind, meaning we were running in the margins, on fumes, if you will. And that's the case because we're in this extended mission. We should have been, by all rights, dead in 2004 with our 4-year prime mission. We did a 2-year extended mission through 2010 and a 7-year extended mission. So no one dreamt back then when we arrived at Saturn in 2004 we'd be here in 2017 talking about this beautiful spacecraft.
Well, Todd, thank you very much for that. An emotional day for the team, but they're already thinking of where to go next. And a lot of people here are saying we need to go back to Saturn. There are still so many mysteries that we have to explore there.
Rebecca Morell with Todd Barber, lead propulsion engineer and human gas gauge. Rocket propulsion to human propulsion now. I'm sure you're familiar with the
Like so many children growing up, I really wanted to name the Gritter after a 60s bubblegum pop record. Thank you to everyone who's voted for this. As an avid user of roads and footpaths and other public spaces, and an avid fan of traction, I've come to really like not falling over. So Gritters do a really important job.
Natalie also revealed that she'd missed out when entering a similar competition last year, so her story really does show what you could achieve with passion, determination, and yes, and I'm sorry about this, a little bit of grit.
He isn't sorry, you know. That was Jonathan Savage. Now, we set out to bring you the most uplifting and fascinating bits of 2017, and we would be remiss if we didn't talk just a little bit about the BBC television series about the world's oceans, Blue Planet 2. From seals chasing tuna onto a beach to an octopus camouflaging itself with shells, it is a visual feast, of course, but it also comes with some rather good sounds. Mark Mardell has been speaking to one of the sound recordists on the series, Steve Simpson, who's also a professor of marine biology. They began by discussing one of Steve's favourite sounds, a coral reef.
Jacques Cousteau assumed that the ocean was silent, Le Monde de Silence, the big film that he produced 60 years ago now. But we have been able to work with Blue Planet 2, particularly with new technology that allows us to record in multiple directions at the same time.
Well, let's hear one of those. Now, you'd guess that was a monkey gibbering in a tree, but it's not, is it?
No, that's a quite incredible sound that is produced by a very small, fairly drab-looking damselfish that lives anywhere from Australia up to Taiwan. Damselfish are territorial. They hide at night but come out and defend territories during the day. And they have to use vocal calls as a way of protecting their territory, communicating with each other. Now, a coral reef is full of biological noise. You've got all the invertebrates, snapping shrimp, lobsters, urchins, and so on. And then you've got, many species of fish vocalizing, which means that the soundscape is very dense. There's a lot of noise. So to get yourself heard requires innovation. So this whooping sound that you heard of the damselfish is actually a fish making a much higher frequency whoop whoop kind of sound that you wouldn't normally hear fish making. And it gets them heard above the din.
Sounds almost like an organic foghorn.
Yeah, no, so it doesn't sound like the most pleasant sound for a human, but that's actually a love song you're listening to. It's the love song of the classic British cod. And cod congregate at their spawning sites for a month or so each year. And males have about 10 seconds to sing a song to a female while they swim towards the surface from the seabed at night. So all she can do is hear him. And in that song is a lot of information about whether he's healthy, how big he is, and whether she's interested, therefore, in breeding with him.
The love song of the British cod. Professor of Marine Biology Steve Simpson, sound recordist on Blue Planet 2, was talking to Mark Mardell. And finally, another love story. A story that broke in 2017 but will continue in 2018, of course. Now, you don't have to be a sentimental old royalist to like a nice wedding. And you might recall that our own Prince Harry has proposed to his American girlfriend Meghan Markle. And, dear listener, she said yes. People here in London were rather pleased.
That's wonderful.
It's fantastic.
Thrilled for them.
Fantastic. Come down, especially to see the announcement. I think they're going to make a great team.
Did he get engaged? To Meghan? Really? Oh my God, congratulations to them.
My mom just texted me about it, so we wanted to come and see. It's really cool. Yeah, it's so exciting. Yeah, we're on a holiday and we're here, and so it was exciting that it happened this weekend.
I think she's a cracking girl, very good actress.
I think it's delightful. I mean, the public probably won't ever be able to get enough royal weddings. I grew up in the United States, but I've been living in New Zealand for 45 years, so I'm sure the world will be excited.
The BBC's Michelle Hussein met the happy couple at Kensington Palace, and first she asked them how they became engaged.
It happened a few weeks ago, earlier this month, here at our cottage. Just a standard, typical night for us.
It's a cosy night. It was what we're doing, just roasting chicken and
trying to roast chicken.
Trying to roast a chicken, and it was just an amazing surprise. It was so sweet and natural and very romantic. He got on one knee.
Of course.
Was it an instant yes from you?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I could barely let you finish proposing. I was like, can I say yes now?
She didn't even let me finish. She said, can I say yes, can I say yes now? And then there was hugs, and I had the ring in my finger, and I was like, can I give you the ring? She goes, oh yes, the ring. So no, it was a really nice moment. It was just the two of us, and I think I managed to catch her by surprise as well. So.
Yeah. And this is how long after you first met?
It would be a year and a half, a little bit more than that.
No, just about a year and a half, yeah.
Which for most people would be quite a whirlwind. Is that how it's felt to you?
I don't think that I would call it a whirlwind in terms of our relationship. Obviously, there have been layers attached to how public it has become after we had a good 5-6 months almost with just privacy, which was amazing. But no, I think we were able to really have so much time just to connect, and we never went longer than 2 weeks without seeing each other, even though we were obviously doing a long-distance relationship. So it's we made it work.
How did you first meet?
Yes, we first met. We were introduced actually by a mutual friend, who
we should protect her privacy and not reveal too much of that.
And but it was literally through her, and then we met once and then twice back to back, 2 dates in London. Last July, beginning of July, and then it was, I think, about 3, maybe 4 weeks later that I managed to persuade her to come and join me in Botswana, and we camped out with each other under the stars. And she came and joined me for 5 days out there, which was absolutely fantastic. So then we were really by ourselves, which was crucial to me to make sure that we had a chance to get to know each other.
Have you met the Queen?
I have, yes.
A couple of times.
What was that like?
A couple of times. It's incredible. I think, to be able to meet her through his lens, not just with his honor and respect for her as the monarch, but the love that he has for her as his grandmother.
Your ring.
Oh, yes.
Tell us about your ring.
The ring is obviously yellow gold, because that's her favourite. And the main stone itself, I sourced from Botswana, and the little diamonds either side are from my mother's jewellery collection, to make sure that she's with us on this crazy journey together. And
it's beautiful, and he designed it. It's incredible.
Yeah.
What do you think your mother would have thought of Meghan or said about Meghan?
Oh, they'd be thick as thieves, without question. I think she would be over the moon, jumping up and down, so excited for me. But then, as I said, would have probably been best friends with Meghan. So no, it is days like today when I really miss having her around and miss being able to share the happy news. But with the ring and with everything else that's going on, I'm sure she's with us. I'm sure she's with us. Jumping up and down somewhere else.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and they were talking to Michelle Hussein. Now, one of the things we've enjoyed most in 2017 is hearing from you, our charming and erudite listeners. You have sent pictures. One of you was even inspired to paint a canvas, and there have been emails from the likes of Kailas in Australia, airline captain Glyn, who wrote to us from a hotel in Miami, Estevan, an astronomical illustrator from the Griffith Observatory, Eugene in Beijing, Clemes in Santiago, Chile, Alan in Vancouver, Canada, Eric in Kentucky, USA, Genevieve in Barcelona, Spain, to name but a few. And who can forget Chris, who was introduced to the Global News podcast by his girlfriend Renee.
I've grown to love both her and the podcast. They both show me the world in a different light, sharing new perspectives on issues and discoveries every day. The podcast has become even more important now that we've become a long-distance relationship. I feel a certain degree of comfort knowing every morning and afternoon we can listen to the same podcast and share that experience with each other. I'd liken it almost to the feeling of gazing up at the moon, knowing that the person you love is out there, staring up at the same one.
Thank you, Chris, and well done, Renee. Some of you, including a correspondent or two, took up the challenge of recording tongue twisters.
I'm not very good at it, but yo no gusto el gusto que gusta Gustavo porque Gustavo no gusta el gusto que me gusta. Si Gustavo gustara el gusto que me gusta, y no gustaría el gusto que gusta Gustavo.
Pajman catch, pajman pash, pajman catch, pash, catchish con, pajman pash, pash, pashish con. 时事时事时事事实事实实施事实实事事事实实实事实施事事
Il y avait une fois un homme de foi qui me dit une fois, c'est la première fois et la dernière fois que je vends du foie dans la ville de Foix.
На траве трава, на траве дрова, на дворе трава, на траве дрова, на дворе трава, на траве дрова. There's grass in the yard and there are locks on the grass.
Três tigres tristes, muito tristes. Três tigres tristes, muito tristes. Is that okay?
R con R cigarro, R con R barril, rápido ruedan los carros por las vías del ferrocarril.
Katibukata wakata yakarakata amekataza kata kata kukatakata miti hovio.
Shish sikh kebab sikh shishazar.
Oh, that's brilliant. What does it mean?
It means 6 spits of kebab, each of them 6 hazar, which is the monetary unit.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I'm going to tweet that.
O doce perguntou pro doce que doce que era mais doce. O doce respondeu pro doce que o doce mais doce é o doce de batata doce.
Шла Саша по шоссе и сосала сушку.
I'm not a pheasant plucker, I'm a pheasant plucker's son, and I'm only plucking pheasants till the pheasant plucker comes.
Please tell me you got him plucking pheasants. In there we had, and not necessarily in the right order, Spanish, Portuguese, Persian, French, Russian, Chinese, Swahili and English from our esteemed environment correspondent Matt McGrath. And that's it from us for now. Thank you for listening and for your many kind tweets, emails and suggestions during 2017. Our address remains globalpodcast@bbc.co.uk or tweet using the Global News Pod hashtag. The Global News Podcast will be back as usual tomorrow with the most important news reports and interviews from across the BBC. For now, though, from me, Jackie Leonard, and my producer, Hayley Thomas, if you're celebrating, Merry Christmas, and even if you aren't, peace and goodwill. Goodbye.